So I'm just waiting for a few people to join in, and we'll begin very shortly. Hello. So I will start in a few minutes. I think um, maybe some other people might join because it's just started. But if you have any questions specifically which you want me to sort of discuss, tell me now. So guessing there are no questions. Okay. So starting with this week's content. In this week we started with the exploring opportunities part of the MSDS. So what we do in MSDS exploring opportunities is basically analyzing different scenarios and mapping how much, what is our priority for different aspects of the design and how much sustainability it can bring and in what, in what aspects of sustainability can we improve it, can we not improve it. Then we try to first understand, what is the market like and what are the needs of the customers, the consumers, how much of those are already being met, where are the opportunities where we can actually innovate. Then there's also like, before we do this, we actually do that satisfaction system mapping where we try to define what is a satisfaction unit. And then we also try to sort of drill it down and we try to find out if there is some other elements of satisfaction which we
Uh,
can
uh,
add on.
Madam, just one confusion. See,
Yeah.
I had gone through the system design concept, system mapping, etc., product service system. When it comes to satisfaction survey mapping, because how is it different from system mapping, system design? Because the way you draft or sketch, uh, suppose the problem is, you sketch a satisfaction survey mapping. That means where to start, where to
Satisfaction
end.
system mapping.
Yes, yeah, satisfaction system mapping versus normal system mapping. What is the difference?
So there is, I'm not sure which picture you're looking at. If you look at week 8, the second lecture slides, if you look at slide number 4, that is satisfaction system mapping. And we look up there is system mapping.
Yeah, maybe you can illustrate once. Now, how to sketch for any system. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I'll take it up, but I just wanted you to first also look at the picture, like the diagram in the slides, because that is where your main confusion is. Let me just look
Yeah,
up the
some
system map
water
also.
purifier example is taken. That one. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So there are two very different things actually. I mean, thematically there may be similar system map and satisfaction system map, but otherwise they're kind of very different. Let me share my screen. So this is a system map. This is there in week 6 slides. Yeah, week 6, I think this is the second lecture slides, second video perhaps. And this is the diagram of system mapping. It starts from here, system map. And then
Yes.
she goes on to explain all the icons and the system boundary and color. You can color code them and all that, and how they sort of basically how they interact, what are the flows.
Yes, the stakeholders and the
Yeah.
interactions, and then mapping that
Yes.
time.
And then you have material information, financial, labor flow, all the different types of interactions. This is the system map. Now, this is the satisfaction system map. So I think
Uh,
maybe the naming is a bit confusing, but this is completely different from what we were doing here. So what we are doing at the satisfaction system map is first, at the end of the initial strategic analysis, we have already identified and analyzed the whole reference context. So we know what our context of design is, what we want to achieve, and how we want to, who are the stakeholders, who are the actors. Like in the strategic analysis part, like a big part of it is like identification of actors and identification of how they interact and who is, sort of handling what aspect or who is affected by what aspect of the design or the PSS. So all that we have already done in strategic analysis. Now in the satisfaction system map, what we are doing is we already know all these actors. We already know their incentives or their area of influence. We know all of that. Now what we're trying to do is we are trying to shift the focus towards the actual PSS design. And even in that, the more bigger focus is more on the system and on the the service part of it, not that much on the individual product per se. So just 1 minute, let me join with my whiteboard. Right. So yeah, so this is the basic map. Let me just sketch a different map and see if I can explain it. Let me just share it with you. Are you able to see my screen? I don't think it's visible, right?
Yeah, it's getting loaded. Yeah. Yes, I can see now. Yeah. So, madam, so this satisfaction mapping starts with a known system, and then you detail out all the subsystems, right?
So yes, like you can start with any existing system. It's also possible that you don't have any existing system to start with. So that is always possible. But we generally know what there generally is something already existing. And then we try to make it better, or we try to create a new PSS out of it. So there may be a product existing, or there may be some type of a PSS available which is not really helpful, but we could also start from scratch. So we may just know that there is an opportunity and we want to kind of expand on that and create a PSS to answer that need some consumers have somewhere. So, but
Okay.
in this example she has taken, I think she's taken it as, what is the existing scenario. So, and also, like, see, when we start in the strategic analysis, some part of it, we're also seeing the competitors and we're also seeing what are the existing solutions. So some solution is generally going to be existing. So, we take that as the base.
Yeah,
Solution.
yes, madam. But where this sustainability discussion is coming, actually, it is for example, the madam took the water filter example about replacing filters and the maintenance and per use, all that. That is a product service system. But
Right.
sustainability considerations, we are not discussing, no, that.
No, we discussed that in the SDO, Sustainable
Okay.
Design Orientation Toolkit.
Okay,
So,
okay. So this is only system design. Okay, system mapping. Okay, not
no, this
sustain.
is, in this we are deciding the satisfaction unit. So this deciding the satisfaction unit is one part of the system PSS design basically. Without knowing your satisfaction unit, you don't know what you're designing for, because unlike a product in which you just try to solve one problem, or you want to have one product, in PSS design we define a satisfaction unit which we want to achieve. Now how we want to achieve it is open ended, we can achieve it in many ways. So this part of the whole exercise, this satisfaction system mapping, is mainly to address just that, just to identify the satisfaction unit and see what all can we add to that satisfaction.
Okay, okay, got it.
Yeah. So the initially in this, what we have is the reference context. So the reference context, and you already know one unit of satisfaction. So we know one unit of satisfaction, the main unit of satisfaction. So we have already defined that. Now, after defining that main unit of satisfaction, we want to define some other units of satisfaction also. So, we define some sub-satisfaction units. So, because we are brainstorming, it can be 1, 2, 3, 4, any number. So, like, just for clarity, I'm adding some more. Because you made it very even here, like it's only 4, but it doesn't have to be 4. It can be any number of satisfaction subunits. So it's something like this. So here, this is sub satisfaction 1. You can say sub satisfaction 2. So in her case, what she has taken is, I think, all the different types of filtered water which somebody can use. 3, similarly sub satisfaction. I'm just making it like this so that you understand that you can divide this whole thing into any number of parts. So that is up to you as a designer. 5. So she has taken only 4, but depending on what your problem is, you can have any number of sub-satisfaction. So when we say reference context, we just using it as an expression to illustrate that we know what the reference context is. If you want, you can actually write what your reference context is over here, or you can just write reference context. It doesn't it doesn't like make a huge difference. See, all of the purpose of all these tools is mainly that we want to kind of have a better clarity about a problem. It's not like in the assignments, yes, like you have to do it a certain way and you have to submit it a certain way. But like a lot of these things, when you actually sort of use it, it is just mainly for your own analytical purposes. So the way you use it, you can sort of customize it as per what you feel is kind of best. So
Okay.
now
Okay,
instead
madam.
of
So as I understand, this is the first step before we get into product service system. Here we identify the main
yeah.
satisfaction unit and contributing sub-satisfactions, and realizing that satisfaction is the product service system. Is that right? Am I?
So PSS, yes, we know that it is, we are designing a PSS. Now I'll just explain that part a bit. So what we are trying to do is first we know that there is one unit of satisfaction, which in her case she took as fresh water. Right? This fresh water was her thing. Now there can be variations of that. So for example, like instead of fresh water, say suppose okay, let's think about this. Say suppose I want a water heating system, a solar powered water heating system, or I'm thinking solar powered, but it can be any kind of power. So in my case, it will be say hot water, right? So hot water, that is my unit of satisfaction. At the end of the day, what we want to provide the users is hot water. Now, I can further break down my unit of, let me just put the problem on the top, PSS for getting hot water. Okay, so suppose something like that. Just thinking out of the top of my head, but I think it's a little easier to get it from another example. So sub-satisfaction unit 1 can be hot drinking water. Hot meaning like not hot, but warm drinking water. Sub-satisfaction unit can be, say, hot water for shower. It's very similar to what she took. 3 can be hot water for cooking. Okay. Then you can have, say, what else do we need hot water for? For, say, like, in the winter, you need hot water even for just washing your hands. So just hot water for cleaning, right? Then you can, like in very cold countries, oh sorry, in very cold parts of the country, you may need hot water for some other things also. Like if you're unwell, you need hot water bags. That can still just be tap water. So, oops. What do you do this one? So this type of breakdown of the satisfaction unit helps us explore what all can we do with the design. So maybe not all of these are reasonable or achievable in the design, but what can we do? So what all is possible, which a user may want. So in this case, like I have just taken up hot water. Like in the end, the user wants hot water, but that is the main unit of satisfaction. But there can be other subunits of satisfaction, sub-satisfaction, which we also want to satisfy their requirement if it is possible through the design. So this matrix basically helps us understand how much variation we can include. So this matrix will help lead to the next things where we do that innovation matrix and then we do the polarity matrix. This particular matrix kind of takes us there. So once we have defined what all are the sub-satisfaction units, we now know what is the scope of the design. Like, what all can we be doing or what all can, so like sub-satisfaction 6 maybe can be instantaneous. You can also have more, like it can be like instead of like residential use. It can also be like right. So instead of residential, you can also have industrial use, or you can have health sector use. So hot water for hospitals. Right. So say suppose we want to do that. I'm not saying you have to, depends on your reference context, but say suppose this is okay. So this just gives us an idea of what is the or what are all the possibilities we can explore. Now, once you've decided what are all the different possibilities which could be explored, then we start to put the actors on the table. So this center, this circle, make it in some so this circle basically tells us who are the actors. The circle is going through all the boxes, all these segments. So this sector, let me color it actually. So, yeah. Yeah. So this is basically now I think it might be clearer. This is sort of like, spanning all the requirements. So there are some actors who are going to be involved in all of these sub-satisfaction units. So for instance, like the producer and the person who is creating that apparatus or the technology or the innovator who's creating the technology, that person is going to be common in our case, is going to be common to all of the sub-satisfaction units. The person who is maybe distributing it can also be common to all of these all of these sub-satisfaction units. So if we don't have this hospital thing, even the end user may be common to all of these. So those type of actors, you will identify who are those actors. We put them here, actor 1, 2, 3. I've not written it. I've just put these circles in pink color. They are all like the actors who are common to um, just putting a legend here. These are the actors. I'm not naming them here because I don't have space, and also my handwriting is also not that beautiful. So I've just put it as pink circles, but I think you understand what it means. So these are the actors who are common to all of the use cases, sorry, all of the satisfaction, the units we can think of. And then there are certain specific ones who will be involved in one, but maybe not the other. So we can color them differently. So all these, variations or whatever, all this is up to you. Like I've colored them differently. You may choose to not do that, or you may choose to just write them in a box or something. I'm just doing this to make it more visually clear, but all this detail is, I think, really up to you. So some of these may not have any specific actors involved in them. So, they may not, so some boxes may be like empty, like here, like here, they may be just empty. They don't have any special actors involved in them, and some may. So then, like, for instance, hot water for cleaning, you will also sort of include the person in that household who does the cleaning. In villages, there may be no separate person who does the cleaning. The person who owns the house only does the cleaning. But in cities, there may be a separate person who's, doing the job of cleaning in the house. So then that person is going to be the actor involved here. Similarly for cooking. Now, again, if you're talking about rural areas or remote areas, there may not be a separate person for cooking in that house. But if it is again urban areas, or if you're talking about wealthier households, then there could be a separate person for cooking in the house, right? So hot drinking water, again, this may involve multiple players, because there you may want to specialize that particular filter for removing special impurities or specific impurities. So, that maybe that innovation person may need to be involved here. Or also you may want to kind of market it differently. Or you may want to design it differently as a PSS instead of as even as a PSS, you may want to have it like a shared service or something. So then it will bring in some other people involved. So this one more person is there. So on and so forth, right? Now tap water is, say, suppose, like, hot tap water is very, very kind of useful in like hilly areas and cold regions. In Even in India, there are many regions which are very, very cold in the winter, and they have a longer winter also. So hot tap water can be like very useful there. But since these are like specific regions in the country, and may involve like different set of people altogether, so then this brings in some other actors. So on and so forth. Like, once you start thinking, it's more of a brainstorming thing. You're just these tools kind of help you brainstorm better. Because when you just sit down with an empty canvas board or an empty drawing board or notepad just for coming up with ideas for how to make a PSS or how to make it sustainable, then the main thing is like your mind hits a blank. You don't know where to start, you don't know what to design for. There are ideas, but you don't know which one is better, you don't know which one is more sustainable. So those kind of roadblocks are kind of eliminated if you use these kind of tool maps, because they give you a basic structure to start with. They give you some kind of a framework which you can use for brainstorming, and that gets the ball rolling. Because if you were to think of all of these use cases and then start to detail them in the normal setup, it may not be that easy to do. So after you have done this part, you kind of know all the innovations and all the things, all the use cases which could be possible in this PSS. And then we move on to the next parts. So is this clearer now?
Yes, madam. So from here, we get into innovation matrix. So here we get the initial seed idea, seed the
Yes.
satisfaction to be delivered, and for which we identify the ideas, innovation matrix,
Yes.
and yeah, and polarity. Okay, can you just briefly understand that polarity map is not intuitive? Okay? Uh, there is something called polarity map, right?
Yes, I'll come to that. So this part is clear though.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
it's clear.
okay. Just give me a moment. Okay, so in the polarity map, I think let me just go in the sequence itself. So in the after the satisfaction system mapping, we'll do the innovation matrix first. So let me go through that also, since that is kind of helpful. So share the screen here.
Madam, in fact, it appears to me that whatever the techniques you are suggesting, they're applicable for any system design, right? It's need not be for a sustainable design itself, but generally any system, any product system in the real world, right?
Yes, this is a general concept actually for system PSS, product service system design. We have included tools which will kind of help us make it more sustainable, but the flow of the whole process is actually for any kind of system design. We just adapted it to product service system design a little bit more.
Okay.
Because see, the sustainability design orienting toolkit is the one where we actually include the whole sustainability part of it. So it's sort of like, if you don't do that part, you won't get the sustainable component. So, like if you miss out on that component, you will probably not be analyzing it much for sustainability. But the rest of the methodology is actually the same, whether you do it for any other system design or sustainability. So this is the innovation matrix. This is the diagram I've taken. It is actually from the original paper, which she has referenced in her lecture slides. So if you see, like, after the system, the satisfaction system map, we have some idea of what all requirements we could possibly fulfill with our PSS. And that kind of leads us to the part where we can start to analyze what are the existing customer needs and markets. So needs are what consumers want. This is, they already know they have a requirement for it. And markets is like, where something is being sold. If some product, some service, something is already kind of available. So market is where you have some place, something which you can buy for money. So that is what this mapping or this matrix does. So while we have divided it up into two categories, the markets are visible and invisible, and they are served or not served. And the needs are also visible and invisible, and whether they are met or unmet. So all we're trying to do is that, say, suppose, you have an existing idea for a product. You basically want to see where it is fitting in this whole matrix. And is there something else apart from what you already have in mind, which can be done, which can be innovated based on maybe some need which is unmet, maybe some market which is there but we have not seen it, it is invisible, and maybe some opportunity which is going to be really good for the consumers. Like, you're innovating some product which they have a need for, but that need has not been met and nobody has ever sold that product. So that is like, where your innovation can really make a difference to the consumers. So that is basically what this innovation matrix helps us analyze. So what we do here is, like, in this particular matrix, there is this yellow box. So like there's this box. This box. This is the part which is already met and which is kind of already there. So we know that there is a product in the market, like a water filter, and we know that this is sort of already being sold in the market. People are already buying it. Whether they're happy or unhappy is another part of it, but they are buying it, right? And it is being sold. From here, we move to three other boxes, which is there is a need, but it is unmet. Then there is a market, which is, it may be met, but it is visible, it is met, and it is unmet. Like, there are different permutations and combinations of it, basically. So a market which is visible but not getting served, this one. If the market is visible, but it is not getting served, meaning we can see that people have a requirement for it, right? But that market, there is no like proper product or service or something which is doing it. And it is getting met also. How? Because maybe people are coming up with their own ideas, their own methods to solve that problem. Like in the time when we did not have any kind of, hot water supply, we used to heat water ourselves, and we used to use that for our purposes. So there was a market, it was visible, but it was not getting served. Nobody was, trying to solve this problem. And that is how people innovated and recognized it, and they came up with all these systems like immersion rods, and then, geysers, and then now we have tap fitted water heating things. So that is how they innovated in this space. Then there is a market which may be visible, and the need is visible, but it is unmet. Like, that's the problem is just not even solved. We know that there is a market, we know that there is a need, but that need is not met in any way. Like, there is no product, there is no service in the market, and the consumer is also not able to solve that problem on their own. So, this is a very great opportunity for innovation, because, again, this part is not still explored much if it is an unmet need and there is a visible market for it. Like, you have an idea that, people are going to be sort of willing to pay for it. And there is this box where there is a visible market, there is visible need, and it is being served. Now, I'm not sure what comes here, but basically it says that there is a visible market, it is being served, but it's sort of like, there is a product in the market, and there is supposedly there is something people can buy, but it doesn't really solve the problem. So they still have a need which is unmet, even though there is a product there. So this is that space where you have a product, but that product doesn't really solve your problem. So, I mean, if you think about it, you can probably think of many such areas where, there's something in the market for it, but it's not really like it's not really solving the purpose. For example, like I needed a water bottle for running, for when I'm running. I needed it to be small, to be light, and to be leak proof so it doesn't splash. I needed it to sort of fit into a running belt or something. If I can, if I want to clamp it on instead of carrying it in my hand. And if possible, I wanted it to be sustainable, but it being light was very important. And for the longest time, I could not find any water bottle for that. Like you can find water bottles which are small, but then they're made of plastic, or you can find water bottles which are small, but they're made of metal, so they're very heavy. Or you can find water bottles which are that size, but they spill water or something, or they won't fit. They're too wide mouths, or they're too wide width. You can't hold it in your hand like that. So this is basically an example of a market which is visible, which is being served, but the need is still unmet. There is still like scope for something better to be launched over there. And then, of course, there are the invisible markets. If it's invisible, then it's probably not going to be served anyway. There is an invisible market, but the need could be met again. Like the user may have tried to solve the problem in their own way, that, there is something they are doing, or they're kind of innovating at their personal level and they're meeting that need, or the need could be unmet. Similarly, the need may be visible or it may be invisible even to the user himself or herself. And this, these 9 boxes basically help you understand how you can go from here to here or to here. So when you start from here, the yellow box, you know what is already in the market, but this matrix sort of helps you drill it down, detail it out further and further and further. So you can recognize similar opportunities in this box, in this box, in this box. And then, of course, you can recognize opportunities in all these further invisible markets, invisible needs. Because now you understand it better, you can sort of think about further level, like, hot water, like you want instantaneous hot water, or do you want hot water, which is also drinking water, instantaneous drinking hot water. So far, the products available in the market, most of them at least, are just that tap water fitting, where you can fit it in the tap or the water outlet, and there is a contraption over which the water passes, and you get instantaneous hot water, sort of like a small, very small geyser or something, but it's instantaneous. It doesn't store water, it just heats it and gives the water. But we don't have something like that for household use, for instantaneous hot drinking water. You have those RO machines which sit in, like, in office spaces and all that, or those coffee machines kind of machines where you can get hot water. But those are mostly for commercial use. Like, you can find those in cafes maybe, or you can find those in, of course, you can find it in office spaces and stuff like that. But there is no such, handy product for household use. And maybe because India is a hot country, so that requirement itself is there only for 2 months or something like that. But we have cold regions in the country, and there are regions in the country which get very cold in the winter. So no, it's a good product to have, but it's not there. So those kind of things you can think further and further, starting from this place. So this is like where your starting point is going to be. Then from here you fan out further to this all these different possibilities. So this matrix is basically a very good place to identify all the areas, all the ways in which you can innovate based on, so how you find these needs which are met, unmet, visible, invisible, all this, you will have a lot better idea of this after you've done that satisfaction system mapping. So from there you will get a whole lot of ideas on what all can go into all these boxes. And then this particular matrix gives you a very clear structured idea of what kind of innovation you need. Like, there may be something existing, but it is not fulfilling all the needs. For example, some needs are unmet. So then maybe that this need can be solved by uh, a PSS system rather than just a product. Or you can actually make it better if it is sustainable. Or you can make it more accessible to people. There may be some product, but it is accessible only to some people, not to everybody. So then you can think about that. So I'm just trying to give like an idea of how this matrix can be used in the process of design. So stop this share here. So I think this is hopefully a bit clearer now.
Yes, madam. So the idea is to start with the lower left one where the current state,
Yes.
and then ideally reach the top right. That is very high innovation zone, right?
Yes.
So yeah, and then in the process identify the ideas going up,
So,
going right.
Your ideas can be actually in any of these boxes. So it doesn't have to be necessarily only in the top box. It's just that if it is in the top box, there's a better chance you can actually patent it because there's been nothing done in that area. So if you're in the yellow box, it is already there. So, you also know basically that you don't need to create something in this yellow box because this is already there. So, you already are going to face a lot of competition and all that. So this is not the ideal place for you to launch a product or service system, PSS. The red boxes are also good because you know that there is a very clear need and there is a market. So, you can also innovate here. The blue boxes, which are invisible, unmet, not served, are the places where you can see there's a clear gap in innovation. This G is gap 1, gap 2. And then this IP is basically where you can actually get some intellectual property. So if you create a completely new technology, for example, to get instantaneous drinking water, maybe in a handheld device or something like that, then that is like a new product, new technology. So you are actually, creating intellectual property from there. So meaning you can get a patent. So this is the basic difference between these two. Okay. So the next part is the polarity diagram, which I think you wanted to ask. So let me just open the polarity. Okay. So can you see my screen? No.
Not yet.
Okay. So in the polarity diagram, it's again like a so this is sort of like a basic polarity diagram. Now, the main purpose of the polarity diagram is to understand how centralized or how decentralized different aspects of the PSS are. So, like what we mean by that is, I'll open the one she has made actually. So there is the left axis. Let me color them. The blue axis and orange axis. Okay. So say suppose the blue axis is the axis for manufacturing. Okay. This is on manufacturing. And the orange axis is the axis for ownership. I have just color coded it so that it is, a bit easier to understand what we are doing here. But you don't need to do that if you don't want to. But basically, that is what it is trying to do. What it's trying to do is that you have your different ideas. Okay, you have a whole set of ideas with you, which you've come up with so far. Now, all these ideas need to be assessed on this scale. So you want to assess whether each of these ideas, okay, there are a whole bunch of ideas, you can put them as a stick, post-it notes or whatever. You can do this on paper also, by the way. You don't have to make this diagram like this on a Word or PowerPoint or something. This tool is very flexible. You can do this even on a soft board. You can just put up a sheet of paper, and these ideas can just be your post-it notes, for example. So you can pick up the post-it notes and stick it in different parts of the matrix, depending on where each idea fits in. That could be like, a joint exercise type of thing. So in this, um, axis, the top part is say the community owns it. Okay. and the bottom part is the firm owner or the producer owns it. This is based on ownership. The blue axis, the right part is centralized manufacturing, it's meaning it's manufactured in one place and distributed everywhere from there. And the left part is distributed or decentralized. So this is the broad, like this is the broad framework. Now, against this broad framework, you want to assess every idea. So, for example, I came up with some product for instantaneous drinking water, right? Like maybe I have something like a coffee mug which has a button, and I put water in it. I just press the button, and in 5 seconds, I can have warm water, which is warm enough for drinking. And maybe it is solar powered or something, right? So we are doing it. It has some, you can put it in sun and it charges or something, some technology like that. It doesn't use too much power. And, so it is enough to just warm up the water by a few degrees for somebody like, say, for somebody with a cough like me. So it's just, I'm just brainstorming over here. So in this kind of a thing, like, you want to assess that particular technology, that particular idea for innovation, and see where it is going to be like fitting, the most fitting against this assessment criteria. So you're doing this after identifying the satisfaction units and after going through the whole product innovation matrix to what you want to innovate, what are the possibilities of innovation. So after that whole exercise, we have come up with all these ideas. Now these ideas, we pick them one by one like a post-it note, make into a post-it note, and we stick these ideas in different parts of the design, and we try to see where they fit. For example, my idea for coffee mug is kind of not going to be here. Why? Because it's going to have to be centralized manufacturing, because I don't think this is the type of technology which the consumer can manufacture themselves, or which can be manufactured anywhere just like that. It'll have to be like a very special, maybe specific kind of a solar cell or things like that. And why community owns? Because the product, we sell it once and the person owns it. We may give them some other service for it over a period of time or something like that, customizable options, blah blah blah, whatever. But eventually the mug is going to be owned by the community, most likely, for this particular idea, right? So this also kind of gives us an idea of where in that whole matrix, our product is fitting.
Madam, here a coffee mug actually falls under individual ownership, right? Community, firm. Okay.
So no, the difference is between firm owning it and the person. Community here does not mean that everybody will own it. It just means that it is ownership is not with the firm.
Oh, okay, right.
So there is maybe some other idea in which the firm has the product and it is kind of just giving it out on a pay-per-use kind of a thing. So if this is some pay-per-use item, maybe like again some fixture in a drinking water tap or an RO or something like that, then maybe the firm is just giving it out to you. You just have to fit it over there. You are just paying for how much water you have used. Say, suppose it has a measurement mechanism of how much water is being used. So, this is owned by the firm basically. And this is owned by the firm. And it is manufactured also by the firm. And this is just being given out to people on a pay-per-use kind of a model. So it is a PSS. because the firm is basically owning it. The firm will take care of servicing it. The firm will take care of, end of life of the product, or how to elongate its life. Again, it's the firm's criteria. But this is manufactured still in one place. It is not getting manufactured anywhere on demand like that. It is still manufactured in one place, sold from one place, or shipped from one place. And the, the kind of like the firm retains ownership. The customer just buys a subscription, something like a subscription, something like, right? Some model like. Then you can have some other idea, like perhaps something which is, you kind of create something. Now, again, this is hypothetical, but say suppose you're able to come up with some technology, very, very simplified technology. I think there is a similar product like this, but it's not really that hot water thing. There is a lamp which they came up with. It's a solar powered lamp. It's very small lamp, which is mainly for just as a reading light. So in rural areas, the kids who go to school, they don't have light to study at night in the evening because there is no power in these villages at night. So they, some innovators in IIT Bombay, they came up with this solar lamp, and they have they're locally manufactured all over the India. They made their designs, open source. The designs for that lamp are available on their website. Anybody can download it, anybody can procure the parts, and anybody can assemble it and make the lamp. And they've created these centers all over India, where, not all over India, actually, some parts, I think all over Bihar, maybe, where, multiple districts in Bihar, I think, where they enabled and empowered the communities to actually assemble all the parts and manufacture the lamps. And they only sell the lamp and they only buy the lamp. So it's not free. They are actually generating an economy over there. So what they do is they sell the lamp, but they also provide ongoing, maintenance for the lamp. So this will fall in this part of the this whole box. So like this example is like, so if you have, say, suppose a hot water thing which is, assembled, manufactured by people. If it's assembled based on open source design and the parts are available, locally available, and it's not that difficult to assemble, then this becomes a distributed manufacturing owned by community, and it is still a PSS because um, the whole repair, maintenance, all that is still included in your offering. So this is like just a few examples of how you could possibly, have different ideas. So, if you want, you make this matrix, for example, and then you realize that this is the idea you like best, but you don't want it to be sold in this way, which is community ownership and centralized manufacturing. You want to alter the design. So then you can redo this whole exercise with altered designs. Or you see this and you see there is no idea which is fitting. This is, suppose you want an idea which comes somewhere here, like I've put these, like, taken examples which are extreme left, extreme right, but there can be examples which are somewhere in between. It is not completely decentralized and it's not completely centralized. Right? So there can be some idea which is here. Maybe some idea which fits in here, or some idea which is coming in here. So maybe you want some idea which is completely far on the right to move more towards the center. That, right? And you can modify your designs, or you can come up with some other new idea which fits in which part of the, the polarity diagram you want it to fit. So you say, suppose you want an idea which fits somewhere here, Then you can modify your designs, or you can come up with new ideas for something which fits in this particular part of the diagram. So that's kind of how you can do this as an iterative process, or you can do this in a firm as a group. So yeah, say suppose I want something like this, where I put it. This is where I want it to be. Ideally, it could be like, somewhere here is where you want your idea to be. So you can also sort of mark it on your own diagram in a dotted way, or you can use a marker to circle that part if you're doing it on paper. And then you can come up with, new ideas. You can take off all those post-it notes, for example, and you can come up with new ideas, and you can once again start over and do that exercise, and you can sort of find ideas which fit in over here, like this particular blue thing, it kind of fits in over here. Or this one is sort of close by, it's not in the box, but maybe it's somewhere here. So then you can see which, again, where this is falling, and if you want to improve, or if you want to stretch your circle till here, then you can do that. So this is how you use the polarity diagram. So is this clearer now?
Yes, yes, madam. So basically, it is a positioning ideas in the space of manufacturing versus ownership. Okay,
Yes.
who manufactures and who owns. So in that space where your idea gets positioned.
Yes. So you have a whole pool of ideas already. You keep putting them, sticking them somewhere on this whole axis, and you see where it is falling, and you try to find like a sweet spot. This black thing I've put here, that is sort of like what you know or what you want to be the place where your idea should be fitting. And then you modify your ideas and you try to shift them to this, or you try to find a new model which kind of is okay with this being here. So this just gives you a better perspective and clarity on the nature of your PSS. So without this polarity diagram, you don't have enough clarity on the nature of your PSS, like, who is going to manufacture it, who is going to own it, you know and these are very big questions in PSS design, because in
And
PSS
yeah,
design, like, these are the central questions basically.
yeah.
Yeah.
Madam, we can even add the other dimension, pay once or pay per use.
Yeah. So I have just put these as some out of the top of my head examples. You can use all ideas, whatever you want on this.
Okay, ma'am, got it.
Yeah. Okay, so let's do this. Okay, so coming back to where we were. So after the polarity diagram comes the offering diagram. So in offering diagram, before you go to the offering diagram, you can sort of, understand from all the previous exercises what exactly is our, product service system, what kind of a, structure we want to give it, what kind of other aspects like market, needs, satisfaction, and we've detailed all of these out before we come to the offering diagram, the innovation matrix, the polarity diagram, all these we've completed. So we have a good idea by now of what kind of a PSS we want to offer. So let me just take a 5-minute break here, and then I'll come back and explain the offering diagram and also the SDO toolkit, because I think SDO toolkit is changed. So the one she discussed in the videos is an old version of the SDO toolkit. That toolkit is not available on the internet now. There is a new version available. So I just want to sort of walk you through that new version and just show you. It's very similar, so there is not like a huge difference between what was there before and now. This one is just Excel based. The other one was, I think, Flash based. But just to show you how it works. So let me just take a 5-minute break here. Okay, so let me first go through the offering diagram, and then we'll discuss the SDO toolkit. My screen is visible. So in the we are doing the offering diagram. So in the offering diagram, the first thing we need to know is that, like after we have done that whole exercise of um, the polarity diagram, all the innovation matrix, and all those things, we will be able to by now identify a few things. The core function, which is the main satisfaction unit which we identified, and basis that what is really going to be the main function of our PSS, which is the basic thing which we're going to do. Not basic, the core thing we're going to do. Then there is the basic function or functions, functionalities, which are kind of important for the whole design to be able to perform the core function. So, what parts of the design are basically enabling the core function. Those are your basic functionalities. Then there may be or may not be some added value functionalities. This can be like, it can kind of improve or enrich your design. Like, you may want to add some add-on basically, which, the customer, the consumer, they may or may not choose to take up. So those are your added value functionalities. And then there are some sub functionalities. So these are kind of, just more like how is it all going to come together? Like how is the whole thing going to function? So the sub functionalities are not like the function the PSS is giving or doing. It's not the core function, but the sub functionalities are basically all the things, all the aspects of your PSS, which uh, you know include how it will be delivered or how it will be accessed, all those type of things. So I've just written these down because these are the four main things which we will kind of require to be added into any PSS. So the way she has done it, she has actually taken Professor Banerjee has taken like great. It's just taken the PSS in the center. This is the PSS. And then she has kind of, added other things here, other things there. So I am just detailing out one, and based on that, we can add others later. So each of these is pointing to one set of core function and then its own subsidiary functions and then its own, its own other, things which may go along with it. So this is like one core function. So this is one one kind of a, how do you say, one concept, okay, one concept with its own set of functions and core functions and things like that. Okay. So this is, okay, let's make it like this. So it'll be easier. So there's one core function this whole concept has. Then it has some other basic functions, right? So there are some basic functions, and these basic functions do what? They are the ones which enable the core function. So they enable the core function. So these are both linked. Okay, core function is what we have decided is the main function of the PSS, but it does this with the help of the basic functions. You cannot remove the basic functions, is what I'm trying to say here. So you have a basic function, and then the way it is in the diagram in the class is a bit different from how I want to put it. So say suppose okay, now these are the sub functions. Okay, the sub functions basically enable both of these, how it is kind of delivered and how it is going out into the market. That is the uh, that is a sub function. And then you can have some sort of add-ons which people may or may not use. Add-on services, right? So this can be like, or you could put this down also. Actually, no, I think I understand why I should put it down. Sorry, this is looking a bit messy, but it's a bit.
Madam, a side note, what is the tool you are using, madam, for sketching this? You are using iPad, right?
Yeah, I use Freeform.
Freeform. Is it a free tool or to pay?
No, it's a free tool.
Okay, it's an iPad, is it? iPad?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
It's not getting selected. That's the now it is, but it's I'm just deleting it. I can just do this again. So we put these down below because it's kind of, it kind of enables everything. That's why, you put it down after the add-ons. So these sub functions sort of, enable all of this and how it goes out into the market. So add-on is just plus to these core and basic functionality. So this is your kind of like a conceptual thing of what your PSS contains. So this is one set of core functions, basic functions, add-ons, and sub-functions for the PSS. Now, instead of this, you could modify, you could have some other design also, or you could have some other, concept which is rotate it. Okay, never mind. Seems you can't rotate this. But I think it's kind of clear what I'm trying to do. So, similarly, you can have something over here. You can have something more here. Like that, you can have like, these type of things in any combination. So you can have one here. You can have something else. So you can create different sets of PSS offerings, basically. So what we are discussing here is what are the PSS offerings in the offering diagram. Now this is like one set, because see, even if your core function changes a little bit, the basic functions, the add-ons, the sub-functions, all of these would change. So even if you modify your core function a little bit, you would still have to come up with a new set of basic functions and a new set of uh, add-ons and sub-functions. So this whole thing together is, even from functionality point of view, this whole thing together is the PSS design. You can't say that only one thing is a PSS design, or you can't just say that core function is the PSS design, no, because then it's not really a function, it's not really a system. When you're talking about a system, it is all of these things together. That's the main difference between product design and a system design. When you're talking about a system, we're not talking about just the core function. There is basic functions also, but there is also add-ons and there are sub-functions. Sub-functions are kind of like how the product is going to get distributed, how, say it is pay-per-use, and how are you going to meter that? Or if it is a shared thing, then how are you going to share resources? Like if it's like she was talking about the water filter. So if it is shared in a community, how do you decide that everyone has fair and equal access to it and not one person, it's not like one person uses half of it and then there are three people sharing between the other half or something like that, right? So is there a metering mechanism for every user, right? And how do you prevent that, that unfair use that somebody else does log in water hours or whatever, or name of it. There's all sorts of aspects to it. So these sub functionalities are those kind of things that, how is your PSS going to function as a system? So, which is why when you change any core function or basic function, or you create one more add-on or something like that, the sub functions are also going to change, and the whole way the thing comes together is going to change. So, if you want to modify it, you'll have to create another whole set of alternatives for it. So, this is basically the offering diagram. Offering diagram just gives a sketch of what your whole PSS offering in its entirety is. So here I have written core function, basic function, add-on, blah, blah, blah. But when you're actually doing your design, you can write what the core function is. So for example, in our case, it was hot water, or we can say, I'm just writing hot water for now. Then basic functions would be, there would be like filtering mechanism, heating mechanism, right? Container of some sort, things like that, right? Or maybe you can say this is instantaneous. Then add-on can be something else. You can comes with another type of container, some different type of container maybe. Sub-functions will of course include whether we want to make it pay-per-use or we want to make it, sold, manufactured, assembled. How do we want to market it? Is there anything else? So it's pay-per-use, and it raises many questions on how do you meter it? What's going to be the pricing? All sorts of things, right? So all other aspects of it go into the sub-functionalities. So when you're actually doing this for a particular system design, you can write the actual things here instead of just writing that word basic function. You write these basic functions instead of just writing the word add-on. You can write what are your add-ons. You may not have an add-on also. That's also perfectly fine. But
Madam, core function should only be one, right? For any PSS.
yes, I think ideally core function will be just one. In some
But
cases, it may be like, the core function itself has one or two components or something like that. But generally, core function is going to be like just one line or just a phrase.
yes, because you've done a sketch of 4 arrows. That's what I'm curious. So
Which 4 arrows?
no, that center PSS and top arrow, bottom arrow. Right
No,
arrow.
so those are all the different alternatives.
Oh, alternative core functions? No.
No, so this is one system. No, this whole
Okay,
thing is one design.
okay.
This can be some other design in which even if your core function is the same, you may have a different basic functionalities and then different add-on, different sub-functions.
Okay.
So this is one alternative. This is another alternative. And similarly, you can have any number of these things. Like I've filled in the box in only one, but you can have any number of boxes. So is this clear now?
Yes, madam. Yes.
Okay, let me see if there's anything else mentioned here. Right. So 1 minute. So I will just check this part, this core function. I'm not sure if she's referring to the main performance. So she's written main performance, but I don't recollect if she was referring to just one aspect or multiple core functions. So I think what I've explained is correct, but I will just check this once and I will get back to you. And I'll upload it in the folder, in the shared folder. So in the same diagram, if there is something else, then I will just add it to the diagram and I'll upload it. In case there is some difference between what she has explained and what I have explained. Is that okay?
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, so this is the offering diagram. I will share all this in the shared folder after the class. So I will anyways be including these class notes in the diagrams and all that. But just for like your understanding, this particular diagram, if there is any difference between her explanation and my explanation, I will just change that and of course I'll explain it in the next class also, but yeah. Okay, so the last part which remains is the SDO toolkit. So we just open that. Okay, so in the SDO toolkit, there's already an existing like a lecture slides created by, I think it's by Carlo Mazzoli, who has created, he and his team have sort of created this toolkit. So I've already put this file in the shared folder for week 8. You can check it on your own time. after the class. I'm just sharing that now anyway. So okay. So just quick recap. So this is it's a guide for the SDO toolkit. It's prepared by this Lens Lab, and so a brief. We already know this. We kind of sort of already discussed in the class. So we already know, like, what we use SDO toolkit for. It's come up before also in the strategic analysis, but it is especially useful in the exploring opportunities part, because here we are sort of trying to add all the ideas, of what we want to do, and we're trying to add a priority to it, and then we're trying to see whether our ideas are actually helping us improve the design based on our own priority or not. So this is like, it kind of makes the whole process a lot more structured, because you have, like, say, 15 ideas. Okay, and they all do different things, right? Some ideas are improving some part of it, some other ideas improving some other part of it. So you don't really normally, otherwise, without any toolkit, and it's not entirely mathematical also. So it's kind of difficult to assess your own ideas and their viability across different aspects of sustainability, or different aspects of even consumer needs for that matter. So the SDO toolkit basically helps us do that. It kind of helps us, first generate ideas based on certain criteria. It has all these criteria which you can use to come up with ideas. Then it helps you add a certain priority to different aspects of sustainability. That how important is this? How important is that? And then you check your own ideas against those, priority ratings, and you can see it visually in a radar map as to which component, which aspect is kind of improving and which is falling short or not improving at all. So this is the basic interface. I'll just show the Excel file also, but this presentation sort of gives a quick walkthrough um, through the new SDO toolkit, because the one she's mentioned in class, it does the same thing. It has the same functionality and the same components, but it looks kind of different. So this looks a bit different. So this is the landing page of the SDO toolkit. It starts with the environmental aspect. They all have broadly the same components. So, it starts with analyzing the existing system and, like, identifying what are your priorities for different aspects of sustainability, say. Then you orientate your concept, where you add a whole lot of details about your concept and all of that. You check your concept, and then you see it visually on a radar. So this is how you start. First, start with project records. You click on it, and then you enter all the description and the details. Then you start with environmental. Sorry. You start with environmental components. You see, these three are like different components of sustainability. And then you go to existing system. You click on this part, analyze the existing system, and it takes you to this particular sheet. In this sheet, you have, these questions. Are these disposable systems used? Are the packaging, blah, 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 is a part of the system technologically obsolete, blah, blah, blah. These are all the questions she's already discussed in the class. So I'm not going into those in a whole lot of detail. It's already there in the video. It's the same questions, actually. The questions have not changed. But you can sort of go over these questions, select the strategy first of all, one by one, for every aspect, system, lives, transport, resources, blah, blah, blah. Then you read this checklist and you mention here, you mention your answer on the right hand side where it says right answer, one for each checklist. So here where it says, here you write your answers. Then you assign a priority rating to it, that this is low, medium, high, whatever. And then yeah, and then you come to the next slide. So the next part, sorry. Then we come to the socio-ethical part. Again, we do the same thing. We go and analyze and set priorities. Oops. And then again, we select the strategies and then we read the checklist and enter all our answers for each one. And then we enter a priority matrix again. What is it? Right. So now we come back to, so distributed, etc. will apply only if you're doing it for a distributed economy. So we won't discuss that right now. But basically, first go to environmental, enter the whole analyze the existing system and priority thing. Then you go to socio-ethical and enter the whole analyze the existing system and priority. Then you go back to the environmental and you go to orientate concept. You click on that. And this is the screen you will see. Again, in this, you select a strategy and open idea boards one after the other. So you select which one you want to fill out, and then it opens the idea boards. Now, these are the guidelines, basically. In the center, what you're seeing in that orange box, these are sort of like the guidelines on how you can, for example, improve system life optimization. So in the bottom bar, we have selected system life optimization for now. So then these are all the guidelines. Based on these guidelines, we have these idea boxes, sort of like post-its, and you fill out these idea boxes. And that is kind of, you're capturing your own ideas to address this particular aspect. Okay. Okay. Yes, there's something wrong. The slideshow was kind of stuck. Let me check where we were. Yes, we were here. Right. So these are your, some examples. He's added this. You can add link here, or you can put some picture here, whatever you want to do to sort of help you populate ideas. So these are some screen grabs, etc. He's added here. Then you go back to socio-ethical and you go to orientate concept again. Then again, you have a similar kind of workflow. You select from the bottom, you select each of these: improve employment, improve equity, enabling responsibility, blah, blah, blah. You select one of these, each one of these one by one, and the set of guidelines will open up, which will help you populate ideas for that. And then, you can add these kind of pictures or links or whatever you want to help you populate your ideas. Then if you have a distributed economy, you go into DE And you do the same thing for a distributed economy part. So we are not working with that, so I'm not discussing that much. When you go back to environmental, then you check your concept. So you click on check concept, and again you go back to those same things: system life optimization, transport reduction, resource reduction, waste minimization, valorization, conservation, toxicity reduction. So on when you click on each of these boxes one by one, you can enter what you have actually done. Like here, he's given an example here, and then you decide whether there is improvement or there is no improvement, or whatever is happening, incremental, blah blah blah. So you fill these for each of these, and then what happens is you get to see the whole thing on a radar map. This is the radar map, and the green thing is the environmental radar, and the orange thing is the socio-ethical radar. So this is the environmental radar, because we have filled out the check concept thing only in environmental so far. So it is showing you what is happening on different aspects. So like system life optimization is shown here. Toxicity reduction is on this point. Improvement in resource conservation is here. Waste valorization is here. Resource reduction is here. And transport reduction is here. So each point on this radar, there are what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. No, 6. There are 6, sort of vertices on this whole circle, this radar. And each each vertex is representing something. Say like this one, this vertex here is representing transport reduction. Right? This bottom one is showing what? Waste minimization or valorization. So each vertex is representing something, and these concentric lines, these sort of concentric circles, are showing whether it is low, medium, high. So if it is right, so if it is 0, you're going to see it like at this point. If it is high, you're going to see it, sorry, at this point. I think you sort of understand what I'm trying to see. So you'll get an eventually sort of like a radar diagram. That's what's called a radar map. If it is none, then you will see it here, like where it says N. So this is how we can visually see whether there is an improvement and how much of an improvement across all these 6 criteria which we have selected. Then we come to the socio-ethical part, and we're trying to check concept. Start. Right. Again, you go through the checklist one by one. You add the description. You add the priority, blah blah blah, and you get the similar radar diagram for this component, socio-ethical radar. This orange diagram is the socio-ethical radar. And in this, you can see again whether there is improvement or no improvement or whatever across these other criteria, like improving social cohesion, improving employment, enabling responsible consumption, blah, blah, blah. So you can see again, there are 6 criteria. So each of the 6 vertex represent one of those criteria. And based on your inputs, it's going to show whether N is none, L is low, M is medium, H is high. And each of these none, low, medium, high, they are concentric circles. So you can see whether there is an improvement, whether there's no improvement, or whatever. Okay. This explains the same thing. And you can describe your improvements here in the box, which recaps what was the improvement and how you achieved that improvement. So this is basic overview of the SDO toolkit, and we've already kind of gone through how it's used in different aspects, different parts of the MSDS, whole thing. I'll just show you the Excel sheet where we use it. So this is the Excel sheet. Now this SDO Toolkit Excel file I have already shared actually in week 7. So if you see the shared folder in week 7, this file SDO Toolkit, it's already there. So it's the same thing. You open the sheet, you go to project records, you enter all the stuff, go to start one, analyze the existing system. This is going to open. You can zoom out a bit, zoom in, whatever. If you want, I need to just see it on the whole screen. You click one like this, and you see this checklist. You enter your evaluation, set your priority here, low, medium, high, whatever. Go to next one. Go to next one, minimize resource consumption. You read this checklist and you enter your evaluation. Again, you set your priority here, so on and so forth, right? Then you can go back to start, go to socio-ethical, go to analyze system and set priorities, same thing. Across these 6 criteria, we enter the evaluation and we set a priority for each. Again, go back to start. Then we go to orientate concept. This is where we were talking about, we are going to orientate each concept. So this is your guideline here, and this is your idea box here. You can enter your ideas and you can again copy paste. Okay, you can copy paste it. You can, how do I duplicate this? Okay, this is an Excel problem. Basically, you can add ideas. You can actually also just, you don't need to use this box. You can just take a screen grab or a picture or whatever, and you can paste it on this board. It kind of just captures those. Similarly, for other criteria, you go click on them one by one, and you enter all your ideas here. Then go back to start, go to social ethical, do the same thing with orientate concept, then go to check concept. Again, it's the same checklist, the same criteria. Now here what we're doing is we're writing a detailing of the problems and whether we are able to improve it or not with the design ideas we have just mentioned in that idea diagram thing. So you do the same thing as I just showed in the PPT. Again, you do the same thing. Check concept for the socio-ethical aspect. Do the same thing for all the 6, for all the 6 criteria. Blah, 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 improvement. There is an improvement, incremental improvement. There is no improvement, or there is radical improvement. You have to keep saving, of course. This is not a flash file, but still, let's not rely on Microsoft saving abilities, and of course, continue to save it. Then you go to the radar. So I just arbitrarily entered something, and this is the diagram I kind of got. You can, of course, enter the proper details, and for each thing here, like this one is improving employment and working conditions. This arrow kind of points to that. In this box, you can write how you improve it. Okay, my keyboard is, the space bar is not working, but you get what I'm trying to say. So each of the diagram just shows you where the improvement is, where there is no improvement. It's just showing you that, but this, it's not more. So the diagram is kind of showing you whether there is improvement or not visually. How you improved it or what is the improvement, you can manually just enter it into these boxes here. And again, you sort of go back This is the only issue with this tool, that you have to scroll back. If you want, you can go to EQA, EQ3, 4, 5, 6 like that, but I just don't really prefer that. To create a radar here, oh sorry, this is a radar for environmental, and this is again showing whatever arbitrary values I enter, making the diagram based on that. But I mean, we can enter real values and it will show a real diagram, and you can enter your improvements and things like that here. So this is this, like, the new toolkit, which is sort of Microsoft Excel based, and it works like the one she's shown in the lecture slides. The basic, purpose, the basic, the criteria, the basic layout, everything is the same. It's just a different interface because it is Excel based and it is using a different software, and so you have to scroll at the bottom and select start. And so the easy thing is, if you want, you can start with socio-ethical from start 2 and distributed from start 3, but they're all clickable. So, you can, there's a guide here. If you want, there is a PDF, I think, which opens if you click on this here, how to use the SDO toolkit. It will help you with the same things which we've just discussed. And this kind of just tells you what are the strategies. There's 6 for environmental and 6 for socio-ethical. And these are some of the shortcuts, short forms he has used. He's just given a detail of that. So this is basically the SDO toolkit. It's not complicated. It is pretty simple and straightforward if you know what we are trying to do and how we are going about it. And you can create this SDO toolkit thing, for every project or even for one project if you want to sort of, study it differently from different perspectives. Like you've entered one priority, set of priorities in one file, you can create a different file and set a different set of priorities and then see in the radar diagram how is your design now looking if you change your priorities. Well, that's up to you. And like I think she mentioned in the class that you can print it and you can distribute it, you can share it with your stakeholders, you can discuss it in a meeting also, you can use this to take your design forward, make changes to the design, whatever. So I think this sort of covers this week's course syllabus. So if there are no more questions, I can end it here. If there are other questions, please.
It's okay, madam. So I got the overall big picture of all the diagrams. Yeah.
Okay, so there is one YouTube video which also explains the SDO toolkit. I'm just sharing that with you in the chat. If you want, you can just check that video. This is the video by Professor Carlo Verzoli himself, I think. It's the tool which he has created. So this is his sort of very short introduction to the toolkit. If you want, you can go through it. I'm not sure if he's speaking Italian or English, but even if it is Italian, you can kind of, get a translated, maybe something. It anyways shows you to a toolkit. So I just thought it would be a good practice. So, okay. So then I'll end the class here and we will meet again next week.
Okay. Thank you, madam.
Okay. Thank you for joining.